Hello, this is Paul, and I welcome you to the third part of this first lesson. And we've been talking about the basic structure of what we're going to put together as a database. And as mentioned before, we are first doing the preliminaries, and we have done that by creating a rough draft of what we want to see in our reports and presentations. We have done that by looking at a spreadsheet that I already had. And I also determined the elements on the reports needed to make the presentation. In other words, we identified each field that was common in each record. And is any of this a calculated report, or is this a data straightforward? Well, in a numerical field, we have something that we're able to increment one at a time. So that would be a calculated field as we develop our database if we choose to go that direction. Everything else is data, and that is called a character or text. Now, also, we have some data that is repeated. So for this reason, we're going to develop a secondary database and save a lot of space on our hard drive. So as we look at this, we have also realized how numerical fields and character fields differ. Now, as we look at this chart for an ASCII chart, we take notice that the order of things is that we go in the order of the decimal field, which is on this chart as DEC, and the numerical order puts numbers first, capital letters second, and the lowercase after that. So that's going to be the order of things, and everything is handled as a character, not numerically. We have also looked at the comparison of how a numerical field will work differently, that it will lay out things and put them in an order that we expect. Looking at this comparison chart that I have made, we take notice how characters handle numbers one character at a time. Take notice that it is 1 and then 1 0 comes before 1 1, and 1 1 0 comes before 1 1 1. Now in that order. Then we go to the 2's. That is how a character field is handled. Now in opposition, we look at our example that we are looking for on a display to have numerical order. And in order to handle this, you might think of this as a left justified or a right justified order. Now we look at that in a numerical order and realize that 1, 2 comes before 10, and 10 and 11 comes before 20. 20 and 22 comes before 101, etc. on down. And that is the order that we are looking for. So we are looking for a numerical order to make our reports as we expect it to look like. With the basic information of how these fields work, we're ready to look at our example here and realize what we need for our fields. We have already talked about the title field, and we have already talked about the artist field, and then we have finalized what is for our data or the disk number. Now we're going to talk about the field that handles our different moods, and that is going to be combined together as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I have an X for each one of them. Now using the X, I'm going to have to use it as a character field. However, this is only going to take one space of data, and it's not going to be permanent. We are going to do some work with this to make it unique, and we're going to make use of it in a relational database to link different meanings to it. Our last field on our example relates to the mood of what is an explanation of what these X's mean on the other parts. And it will be 8-character field with the largest meaning, and be able to make it repeated as we see it through the complete file. Now it's necessary to do this because we need to import this file as exactly laid out in our example. There cannot be any variations. However, we are going to make changes to our database once it is established. And we do it one step at a time. So we do have plenty of time to incorporate this into our structure. Now let's summarize what we have created here. We have a title field, which is a character for 45 spaces, an artist field for a character of 30 spaces. We have a disk number, which takes up 3 spaces, but take notice I have an extra 0 there, a comma 0, because it is going to have no decimals. And this is important because when you look at the number of characters or spaces for a number, that period takes up 1 space. So remember that in your database planning. Now next we have P1, which is a character for 1 space. P2 is likewise, and 3, 4, and 5 is the same thing. And then we get to the mood, which is a character field, and it is with 8 spaces. Now this is the structure that we need to take on that will be usable for our database. And take notice I have called this a structure. This is a database structure in all terms. Now we're going to manipulate it after we get the data all in there, and we're going to add a field to it later on. And take notice I'm calling it a P, and I'm changing it to numerical data without a decimal point, with only 1 number. So this is going to be usable and going to be used in a secondary database to be able to link it together. And this field will not be used in our reports, but will be used to have in our link to another database. And this is the meaning of a relational database. Up until now, I've been identifying character fields, but for the purpose of OpenOffice, we are going to now translate this into a text field that is recognizable in OpenOffice to be able to record our data. There is no difference between character to text in this meaning. It is all the same, but we're going to use a T instead of a C to create our databases. Finally, we're going to have the intent of making a secondary database that is going to be able to have us save a lot of space on our hard drive. And in order to do this, we are going to need one field that is going to be identical to what we get from the original database, and be able to have them linked together as a relational, and is usable on a report as a single report instead of 2 different databases. Now the key is the 2 must be the same, and in this second one the sorting is going to be on the same field that is being called from the first database that we have created. Now this is in relation to a structure that is one-to-one. It is from one database to another. However, in a more larger database, we are able to have it to one-to-many. In other words, have more than one field this way being displayed in more than two different databases and link them together with like information. Now we also going to change this character to a T to identify as a text for the sake of OpenOffice. This is a good time for us to take a break and be able to get ready to actually build our structure and create our first database. Please remember, it's going to have to be created exactly how we want to bring in data, and then we're going to make changes to save space and have the same information. So it's going to be very interesting. Be sure to go on to the second teaching of this, where we're going to actually develop our database.